The planet of Zephyria was silent under the pale light of its twin moons, casting long shadows across jagged cliffs and strange, glowing plants. Aliens of every shape and size moved carefully through the rocky terrain, whispering to each other about the girl who could kill with a single bite. They spoke her name with fear, but no one dared approach, for the rumor of her deadly power had spread across galaxies. She was young, yet her eyes held the wisdom and danger of 100 lifetimes, and her movements were fast and precise. Every alien that crossed her path felt a shiver down their spine, knowing one wrong step could end their life. The human soldier, named Ryan, watched quietly from a distance, his heart steady, his mind alert. He had heard the stories of the alien girl and her lethal bite, but something about the way she moved made him curious. Unlike the other aliens, Ryan did not flinch or show fear. He studied her from the shadows, noting the way her muscles tensed before every strike. Her long hair shimmered with a strange light under Zephyria's moons, and her eyes glowed faintly, a warning to all who dared come close. Ryan wondered what made her different from the other aliens who fled in terror. The girl moved silently between the rocks, pausing to sniff the air, her senses sharp and alert. A small alien creature ran past her, unaware of the danger, and in a flash, she leapt forward, sinking her teeth into its flesh. The creature screamed, its body going limp almost instantly, and Ryan felt a shiver run through him. Every alien around froze in fear, their eyes wide as they watched the scene unfold, and whispered among themselves, "No one can survive her bite, not even the strongest warriors," one of them said. Trembling, Ryan stepped closer, careful to stay in the shadows, observing how she turned slowly, her gaze scanning the horizon. He noticed something strange. Her attention lingered on him for a brief moment, as if she sensed he was different. His heart did not race, his mind did not panic, and that calmness seemed to confuse her. She tilted her head, studying him carefully, her instincts warning her but curiosity pulling her forward. For the first time, she hesitated, letting the tiny alien's limp body drop to the ground. The air was tense, charged with anticipation, as the other aliens whispered nervously, "She hesitates. Does she sense him?" Ryan took another step, his hands open, showing no threat, his eyes meeting hers with steady courage. The alien girl's sharp teeth glinted under the moonlight, and yet she did not move to attack. She circled him slowly, her movements like a predator testing its prey, and Ryan held his ground, every muscle in her body tensed, ready to strike at any moment. But he did not move, did not flinch. A sudden sound echoed from the cliffs behind Ryan, and both of them froze. A group of hostile aliens appeared, looking for the deadly girl, their weapons raised. Ryan noticed that the girl's eyes shifted, calculating, measuring the threat, and for a moment, her deadly instinct seemed divided. She could strike him, bite him, and escape with ease, or face the new threat that approached quickly. Ryan knew this was the moment to show that he was different, to prove that he was not afraid. He raised his hand slowly, signaling peace, and spoke softly in the common alien language. "I mean no harm," he said, his voice calm but strong. "I just want to understand." The alien girl paused, her head tilting again, her instincts clashing with a strange sense of curiosity. The other aliens snarled behind him, but she did not attack. Instead, she stepped closer, circling him like a shadow. Ryan could feel the tension, the danger, but he stayed calm, knowing that any sudden movement could trigger her deadly response. She sniffed the air, her glowing eyes scanning him from head to toe. For the first time, Ryan saw her hesitate, as if trying to read something invisible within him. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours, and the other aliens whispered nervously, "Why is she not attacking him? Why is he still alive?" Ryan could not answer. He only knew he had to stay steady, show no fear, and wait for her next move. The twin moons of Zephyria cast their light on them both, and in that silent moment, a strange bond began to form. The girl finally took a step back, crouching low, her teeth still sharp, her senses alert. Ryan did not move, did not speak, he only observed, matching her calm with his own. The hostile aliens behind him were growing impatient, but they dared not attack, fearing the bite that had killed so many. For the first time, it seemed that one human, with courage and calm, might survive where countless aliens had fallen. And in the shadows of Zephyria, under the pale moons, a story was beginning, a story of danger, trust, and the human who might change everything. The night on Zephyria grew colder as the wind whispered across the cliffs, carrying the sound of distant creatures hiding in fear. The alien girl stood only a few steps from Ryan, her glowing eyes watching him with confusion and instinctive caution. She had never seen a human before, never felt this strange pull that held her back from attacking. Every alien she met feared her, ran from her, or died under her deadly bite. But this human did none of that. He simply stood there, calm and unshaken, as if he understood something no one else did. The hostile aliens behind him grew restless, shifting nervously as they watched the girl's sharp teeth. One of them stepped forward, his voice rough with anger. "Attack her before she attacks you," he hissed at Ryan. But the human did not turn around. He kept his focus on the girl, sensing that any sudden move could turn deadly. The girl's muscles tightened, her body lowering into a hunting stance, and Ryan felt the tension build like a storm. A single wrong gesture could be the end of him, yet he stayed still, his breathing steady and controlled. Suddenly, one of the hostile aliens grew impatient and fired a small energy blast toward the girl. The beam cut through the air with a sharp crack, lighting up the rocks with a blue flash. The girl reacted instantly, faster than thought, leaping aside and landing in a blur. Her eyes blazed with fury as she turned toward the attacker. Her instincts awakened, her deadly power rising like fire. In a moment, she lunged forward, her speed blinding as she landed on the attacking alien. Her jaws opened wide, and before anyone could stop her, she bit into the alien's neck with terrifying force. The alien screamed, his body tightening, shaking violently, then going completely limp within seconds. His eyes turned empty, his limbs dropping without life. As silence fell across the cliffs like a heavy blanket, the other aliens froze, their fear returning stronger than ever, for they had seen this happen before. Her bite was instant death, unstoppable, leaving no chance to escape or fight back. Ryan's heart pounded once, but he kept his face calm. Though the scene was horrifying to witness, the girl rose slowly, her lips stained with faint glowing marks from the alien's energy-infused blood. She turned again toward Ryan, her breathing sharp, her instincts still burning after the attack. For a moment, Ryan thought she might leap at him next. Her hunt not yet finished, but something in her expression shifted. Like a candle flickering between light and darkness, she approached him, silent as a shadow, each step slow but filled with dangerous tension. The remaining aliens whispered in terror, "He's dead. She will bite him. No one survives her bite." Ryan heard them but did not look away. He kept his eyes on the girl, trying to read her wild emotions. She circled him once again, like a predator deciding whether this prey was worth striking. Her teeth glinted under the moonlight, and her shoulders trembled with barely contained energy. She moved closer, so close that Ryan could feel her breath, warm and shaky against his neck. If she wanted, she could kill him in 1 second. One simple bite that ended everything. Ryan felt the danger, but he also sensed a strange sadness in her, a loneliness behind her glowing eyes. He whispered softly, "You don't have to fight me," his voice steady, almost gentle. That simple sentence seemed to freeze her for a moment, surprising her more than any weapon could. She stepped back, confused, her instincts clashing with something new she did not understand. This human's voice did not tremble, his heart did not show fear, and it made her hesitate. The alien girl had survived by trusting no one, by biting before being attacked. But Ryan's calmness was changing the air, softening the tension, even if only for a heartbeat. Her breathing slowed, and she lowered her stance just slightly, as if unsure of her next move. The other aliens saw this and panicked, thinking she was distracted. 3 of them rushed forward, shouting as they tried to capture her with energy ropes. In an instant, the girl spun around, her instincts flaring like lightning as she jumped toward them. Ryan stepped back as the girl moved with deadly grace, dodging every attack with impossible speed. One alien screamed as she knocked him to the ground, her teeth inches from his throat. He shut his eyes, expecting death, but she did not bite him. She paused, confusion flickering again, as if something about Ryan's presence affected her choices. Instead, she pushed the alien aside and backed away, her eyes darting toward the human. Ryan realized something important, something no other alien understood. His presence was changing her behavior, pulling her back from her deadly instincts, even if only a little. The girl looked at him again, her glowing eyes softer yet filled with questions. Ryan knew she was dangerous, but he also sensed something hidden behind her deadly power, a mystery no alien had tried to understand, a story locked within her silence. He slowly reached out his hand, unsure if she would accept it or attack again. The wind carried the quiet sound of her breathing as she leaned closer, studying him. In that moment, something impossible happened. She did not bite him, did not harm him, did not react with violence. Instead, she touched his hand lightly with hers, a gesture small but powerful. The other aliens gasped in shock, unable to believe what they were seeing. No alien survived her bite, no alien earned her trust. But this human was different, and as the moons of Zephyria glowed brighter, the true story began. The story of a human who could survive her deadly power, and the alien girl who sensed something inside him that no one else had. The wind on Zephyria slowed as the alien girl touched Ryan's hand, her fingers trembling like she was experiencing something new for the first time. Her sharp teeth were still visible, glowing faintly under the twin moons, but for once they were not a threat. Ryan held still, letting her explore this strange moment on her own, not wanting to break the fragile connection forming between them. The other aliens watched in silence, their fear growing into confusion, because no one had ever seen her calm before. She was a storm, a danger, a creature of instinct, yet now she behaved like someone searching for answers. Ryan studied her closely, noticing the subtle changes in her expression. Her eyes, which usually glowed with wild fury, now looked softer, almost unsure. It was as if she wanted to trust him but didn't know how, because her whole life had been shaped by fear and survival. He spoke gently, his voice low and steady. "I am not your enemy," he whispered. The girl tilted her head, trying to understand his words, sensing emotion more than language. A faint vibration ran through the ground, and the girl instantly pulled her hand away, stepping back with alert reflexes. Ryan heard it too, a low rumble that echoed across the cliffs like distant thunder. The other aliens scattered in panic, shouting warnings as they ran toward the caves. "Hide! Hide! The hunters are coming!" one alien screamed as he vanished through the rocks. Ryan looked around, confused, until the alien girl stepped in front of him, her body tense, her posture defensive. The rumble grew louder, shaking loose stones and sending dust into the air. Ryan could see shadows forming at the far end of the cliffs, large figures moving in a slow, steady pattern. The alien girl's breathing changed, deep and sharp, her instincts shifting from curiosity to something fierce and protective. Her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter than before, as she planted herself between Ryan and the approaching danger. Ryan realized something shocking. She wasn't preparing to attack him, she was preparing to protect him. The creatures emerged into the moonlight, tall, armored beings with thick limbs and glowing red lines across their bodies. They were known as the Vernox Hunters, ruthless trackers who captured rare alien species for experiments. Ryan had heard of them in human research files. They were merciless, and they always came in packs. The girl growled softly, a sound so deep and primal that it made even the hunters pause for a moment. Her stance lowered, her claws extended, her teeth flashing in warning as she prepared to fight. Ryan stepped back, shocked at her bravery, because fighting Vernox hunters alone was almost a death sentence. Yet she showed no fear, only determination, as if she had faced them before and survived. The hunters spread out, surrounding them slowly, their heavy steps cracking the ground beneath their feet. One of the hunters spoke in a metallic voice. "Target identified. Capture the girl. Eliminate the human." Hearing that, the girl hissed, a sound filled with fury, her eyes blazing with new intensity. She darted forward with unbelievable speed, leaping toward the nearest hunter. Ryan watched in awe as she dodged a massive metal arm, sliding under it and striking the hunter's leg with a powerful kick. The impact made the giant stumble, but the other hunters moved quickly, trying to trap her with electric nets. She jumped back, barely avoiding the crackling energy, her movements fluid and wild, like a creature born from lightning. Ryan knew she could fight, but he also knew she couldn't take all of them alone. He scanned the area quickly, looking for anything he could use. A broken energy spear lay on the ground nearby, half buried under stones. Ryan grabbed it, feeling its weak electrical hum, and rushed forward to help her. The girl noticed his movement and looked surprised for a moment, as if she didn't expect him to join the battle. But she didn't push him away. She accepted his presence, and something shifted between them again. One hunter raised a heavy arm to strike at Ryan, and the girl moved faster than thought. Leaping in front of him, she took the blow on her forearm, sliding back on the ground but keeping Ryan behind her. He stared in disbelief, realizing she had just protected him from a deadly hit. Her breath grew harsher, her eyes burning like fire as she pushed herself back to her feet. Ryan stepped beside her, holding the broken spear tightly, ready to fight with her rather than hide. The hunters advanced again, their red lights glowing brighter, preparing for a final strike. Ryan tightened his grip and whispered, "We fight together." The girl turned her head slightly toward him, her expression unreadable, but softer than before. Something inside her changed again, something deep and ancient, a feeling she had never known. She gave a slow nod, a tiny gesture, but powerful enough to seal their bond in that moment. Together they charged, moving as one, human and alien girl against the ruthless hunters. The girl leaped high, slashing at a hunter's face while Ryan struck another's knee with the spear. Their movements were different but perfectly matched, like instinct and courage woven into one rhythm. Hunter after hunter fell back, confused by this unexpected alliance, but more hunters were approaching from the shadows, their footsteps shaking the ground stronger than before. The girl stepped closer to Ryan, her breathing fast, her eyes glowing with a strange mix of danger and trust. Ryan looked at her, feeling the weight of the moment, and knew something important had changed. He was no longer just a human who survived her bite. He was someone she was willing to fight beside, someone she chose not to harm, and in that unexpected connection, their story grew deeper, stranger, and far more dangerous than either of them knew. The ground trembled under Ryan's feet as more Vernox hunters stepped out of the shadows, their red lights glowing like burning eyes across the cliffs. The air grew heavy, thick with danger, and Ryan could feel the pressure of the moment closing in around him. The alien girl stood at his side, her body low and tense, her claws ready, her breathing sharp like a creature cornered but unbroken. She had fought alone all her life, but now there was someone standing beside her, someone who refused to run. Ryan looked at her for a brief moment, seeing raw fear and wild strength in her glowing eyes. The hunters spread out, forming a half circle around them, moving with slow, heavy steps that cracked the rocks beneath their weight. A loud, metallic voice echoed from one of the larger hunters. "Human detected. Alien target must be captured alive." The girl hissed, stepping forward, but Ryan placed his hand gently on her arm. Shaking his head, he didn't want her charging blindly into danger, not when the hunters had electric nets capable of stopping almost anything. She glanced at him with confusion, but something in his steady gaze made her pause. The hunters moved closer, raising their weapons, crackling with electric blue light. Ryan felt his heart pounding, but he refused to show fear, because fear could make her panic, and panic could get them both killed. The girl leaned forward slightly, her instincts screaming for her to attack, to bite, to escape, but she stayed beside Ryan, waiting for his next move, something she had never done with anyone before. The bond between them felt like a fragile thread, but one strong enough to change her choices. A hunter swung his massive arm at them, and both Ryan and the girl jumped back at the same time. Moving in perfect sync, the girl leaped forward, slashing the metal armor with her claws, sparks flying as her strike left glowing marks. Ryan rushed in from the side, stabbing the weak point of the armor with the broken spear, sending the hunter crashing backwards. The victory was small, but it made the other hunters grow more cautious, their movements slower as they circled again. They had not expected the girl to fight alongside a human, and the confusion worked in Ryan's favor. But the danger was far from over. The largest of the hunters, taller than all the rest, began moving toward them, its heavy steps shaking the ground with every impact. Its armor was thicker, stronger, glowing with deep red energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. The girl growled low, stepping in front of Ryan, her body tense with instinctive rage, but Ryan grabbed her wrist gently, pulling her back, because one wrong move against this giant would mean instant death. The massive hunter raised its arm, preparing to strike, and Ryan reacted fast, pushing the girl to the side and diving away from the attack. The ground exploded where the arm landed, leaving a deep crack across the cliff floor. Ryan rolled, breathing hard, the broken spear slipping from his hand and sliding across the rocks. The girl darted toward him, grabbing his arm and pulling him to his feet with surprising strength. Her touch was rough, urgent, but it told him she wasn't going to let him face this alone. The hunter moved again, swinging its glowing arm toward them, but the girl yanked Ryan behind a large boulder. The attack smashed the rock into pieces, raining dust and stone over them. Ryan coughed, holding his arm over his face, feeling the tremors through the ground like distant thunder. The girl stared at him, her expression fierce but worried, as if she feared he might break under the pressure of this battle. He shook his head gently, giving her a faint nod, showing he wasn't giving up. The hunters started to close in again, their weapons crackling, ready to trap the girl with electric nets. She stepped closer to Ryan, her breathing sharp, her instincts wild, but her movements controlled because he was beside her. He could feel the heat of her energy, the tension in her muscles, like a wild creature fighting itself to stay calm. Ryan whispered softly, "We need to move now," his voice steady. Despite the danger, the girl nodded, trusting his voice more than her own instincts. Together they ran toward a narrow path between the cliffs, dodging blasts of electricity that lit the night sky blue. A hunter tried to block their escape, but the girl leaped onto its back, biting deep into the joint between its armor plates. Sparks erupted as the hunter staggered, shaking violently before collapsing to the ground. Ryan stared for a moment, stunned by her power, but she grabbed his hand and pulled him forward, urging him to run. Her grip was tight, desperate, but it felt like the first time she truly wanted someone to survive with her, not just herself. They reached a dark cave hidden between jagged rocks, the entrance narrow but deep enough to hide from the hunters. Inside, the air was cold and silent, except for their heavy breaths, echoing softly through the darkness. Ryan leaned against the wall, catching his breath, feeling his body tremble from the adrenaline and fear. The girl stood in front of him, her glowing eyes scanning the cave entrance, ready to protect him if the hunters followed. But after a long moment, the ground stopped shaking, and the sounds of the hunters faded into the distance. The girl turned toward Ryan slowly, her expression unreadable. She stepped closer, her breathing calmer now, her glowing eyes softer than he had ever seen them. Ryan realized something important in that moment. She wasn't just dangerous, she wasn't just a creature of instinct. She was someone who had chosen to fight beside him, someone who had protected him again and again. And in the silent darkness of the cave, Ryan understood the truth. Their shared danger had formed a bond stronger than fear, and the alien girl, feared by all, now looked at him with something new, something almost human: trust. The cave was silent, except for the slow, heavy breathing of Ryan and the alien girl. Outside, the wind carried distant echoes of the Vernox hunters, but their footsteps had faded far into the cliffs. Ryan leaned against the cold stone wall, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. He glanced at the alien girl, who stood only a few feet away, watching the entrance like a loyal guardian. Her glowing eyes moved constantly, alert for danger, but there was a softness in them now, a softness only he could see. Ryan whispered gently, "We're safe for now." The girl turned toward him, her expression unreadable, her chest rising and falling slowly. She took a few careful steps forward, studying his face with curiosity mixed with something deeper. All her life she had been feared, hunted, and alone. Yet this human stood beside her without fear. It was something she did not fully understand, but she didn't want it to end. Suddenly, the ground shook again, a quick tremor that sent dust falling from the cave ceiling. The girl reacted instantly, pulling Ryan back with surprising force, her claws pressing gently against his arm. A faint red light flashed outside the cave, followed by the metallic hum of a hunter's scanner. Ryan's heart raced as the shadows moved across the cave entrance. The hunters returning, searching, refusing to give up. The girl pressed herself against the wall, her body tense, her instinct screaming to protect Ryan at any cost. A deep voice echoed from outside. "The alien is wounded. She is inside the cave. Prepare for capture." Ryan felt anger rise in his chest, not fear, because he couldn't let them take her. He grabbed the broken spear from the ground, even though he knew it was almost useless against the massive hunters. The girl looked at him sharply, her eyes widening as she realized he planned to fight. She shook her head, stepping closer, placing her hand on his shoulder, as if telling him not to do something foolish. But Ryan whispered back, "I won't let them hurt you." The girl froze. Hearing those words, no one had ever said such a thing to her. For a moment, her glowing eyes softened, and something warm flickered deep inside her. But the moment ended as the ground shook again, louder, heavier. The hunters entering the cave, their red lights grew brighter, painting the dark walls with eerie crimson shadows. The largest hunter stepped inside, its heavy armor scraping the cave roof. It scanned the darkness, its mechanical voice booming, "Target located, capture mode activated." The girl growled, stepping in front of Ryan, her claws glowing faintly as she prepared to strike. But the giant was too strong, too armored, too dangerous for a direct attack. Ryan knew what would happen if she fought blindly. She would be captured or worse. He grabbed her arm and whispered fast, "Don't attack yet, trust me." The girl hesitated, her instincts screaming to fight, but she stopped because of him. Ryan stepped forward slightly, facing the giant hunter, even though his heart hammered like a drum. The hunter raised its arm, glowing with electric energy, preparing to strike the girl down, and she could no longer hold back. Instinct snapped like a fire inside her. She leapt forward with incredible speed, aiming for the hunter's arm, her teeth glowing as she prepared to bite, but the hunter saw her coming and struck her mid-air, sending her crashing into the cave wall with brutal force. Ryan shouted her name, even though he didn't know if she had one, the shock ripping through his chest like a blade. She hit the ground hard, her body trembling, her breath uneven, her eyes dimming with pain. The hunter turned again, raising its weapon to finish her. Without thinking, Ryan rushed forward, throwing himself between her and the hunter's attack. The electric blast hit him full force, burning through his armor, sending a sharp shock across his entire body. The alien girl gasped, her eyes widening with horror as she watched him fall to the ground. The cave flashed bright blue from the impact, dust raining down like snow. The hunter stepped forward, scanning Ryan's body, expecting him to be dead, like every alien who faced its power. But Ryan moved, slowly lifting his head, coughing, his body shaking with pain but still alive. The alien girl stared in disbelief, her hands trembling as she crawled toward him. Humans were not supposed to survive such energy blasts. Yet he was alive, breathing, trying to stand. The hunter's scanner flickered, confused by the unexpected result, recalculating its next move. The girl's eyes glowed brighter, her instincts rising again, but this time with a new fire. She pushed herself up, her body weak but her spirit burning stronger than ever. She stepped in front of Ryan, her posture fierce, her claws glowing with an energy Ryan had not seen before. Her anger, fear, and connection to Ryan awakened something hidden inside her, something more powerful than her deadly bite. She released a sharp, piercing cry, a sound filled with primal energy that shook the cave walls. The hunter stumbled back, its senses disrupted, its lights flickering violently. With one swift movement, she leapt onto the giant's head, biting into the weak point behind its helmet. Sparks exploded as the hunter crashed to the ground, shaking the entire cave. Ryan watched with blurry eyes, struggling to stay conscious as the girl turned back to him. She rushed toward him, her hands grabbing his shoulders, her eyes desperate and shining with emotion. He smiled weakly, whispering, "I told you, I would survive." The girl stared at him, her expression filled with shock, disbelief, and something soft, something that almost looked like hope. For the first time in her life, someone survived danger for her. Someone lived through what should have killed them. She touched his face gently, her claws barely grazing his skin, a silent gesture of trust. Outside, the remaining hunters fled, terrified of the power they had witnessed, and deep in the cave, under the soft glow of the twin moons, the girl stayed beside Ryan. He had survived her world, her dangers, her instincts, and without realizing it, he had survived her deadly bite too, because for the first time, she didn't want to harm someone, she wanted to protect them. And the story of the alien girl and the human who lived would become a legend whispered across galaxies.